It's so funny to look back at the way things were just a few years ago with so many people, even on quote unquote our side of things, saying that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, they're the future of Disney Star Wars. They have a plan. They're going to unseat Kathleen Kennedy. They're going to make things right for Star Wars fans. It's so funny to watch some of those videos in retrospect, saying what I've said the entire time, and that Dave Filoni is not equipped for that. Dave Filoni is not going to change the future of Star Wars. The Mandoverse was always headed for the sequel trilogy. There was never a doubt of that in my mind or any reasonable person. But some people decided that they would push that narrative. Some people believe that narrative. Yet here we are at the end of the Ahsoka series, and it definitively has been a disaster for Star Wars. We knew it from the beginning. Once you saw that it had one of the weakest audience responses to its premiere in history, a very low number, despite it being available for 5+, nearly 6 days on Disney+. They moved it all the way up to that Tuesday at 9 p.m. release. All this marketing. Lucasfilm went all in on promoting Ahsoka because they knew it needed to be big. This was Dave Filoni's baby. And ended up being a massive flop when it comes to ratings. Ahsoka suffers weak finale viewership. Will season 2 even happen? I've said I don't even know if you need a season 2 of Ahsoka because I don't even think this season needed to be named Ahsoka, to be quite honest with you. But people are now coming to the realization, even people that did enjoy the series or like this series or thought Dave Filoni would be the savior of Star Wars, nearly everyone is having to come to terms with the fact that the ratings are not impressive. In fact, it's the opposite. It's an embarrassment for Disney Star Wars, something that can't stack up to the failure of the Book of Boba Fett or the Mandalorian Season 3, and isn't even in the same realm. Take a look at this shit. The finale of Ahsoka landed on Disney Plus last week to 863,000 U.S. households watching. Now, obviously, Samba TV is only useful to compare to other Samba TV numbers. We know that. Same way with Nielsen ratings, million minutes watched. Same way with the Disney bullshit they put out. 14 million views, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's only useful to compare it to other things that are the same type of thing from Samba TV. Well, unfortunately for Disney Star Wars, we have the Samba TV numbers for the finales for all of these other shows. And Ahsoka pales in comparison. Not only did it have about a 30% drop off from its premiere viewership, which is already down significantly, but when you look at it compared to other things, it really is a fucking disaster. 1.2 million people tuned into the premiere of Ahsoka, so it lost about 350,000 viewers from its premiere. That would be bad in and of itself. But when you look at the numbers for some of the other finales, even for very bad Star Wars shows like Book of Boba Fett, Mando Season 3, look at how it compares. 1.4 million households tuned into the finale of Mandalorian its first 5 days on Disney+. That's one fewer day than Ahsoka was available, just for the record. Yet it has almost 600,000 more people that actually tuned into it. What about something like, I don't know, Obi-Wan Kenobi or Book of Boba Fett? We have those numbers. The Obi-Wan Kenobi finale, with I think just 4 days available, 1.8 million. Book of Boba Fett finale, 1.5 million. And that was a disaster. That was a piece of shit. That might be the worst thing I've ever seen Disney Star Wars on Disney Plus do. Book of Boba Fett. Yet it got that much more of an audience than Ahsoka did. And it doesn't matter how many people try to make excuses, how many people say, well, Samba, you had to wait for the Nielsen. Guess what? The Nielsen ratings, I've done multiple videos on this. The Nielsen ratings are confirming everything about the failure of Ahsoka. All the people who may have sold you a bill of goods about Dave Filoni, about him saving Star Wars, about all this bullshit, it's all turned out to be a disaster. Not only is Ahsoka a rather divisive series in and of itself in terms of how it's being received by Star Wars fans, some people think it was just made for people who love Clone Wars and Rebels, but even some people that are fans of those things hated the portrayals that they saw in this series of those characters, whether it's Sabine, whether it's Ahsoka, etc., whether it's Hera. But one thing is very, very certain. Disney Star Wars is still Disney Star Wars. The audience has walked away. And Ahsoka, despite everything they put into this, all the promotion, a fucking mid-season theatrical release, not even the return of Anakin Skywalker, Hayden as Anakin, and not just in a little moment, like 20 minutes of an episode that Hayden was in. Not even that could bring them in the top 10 of Nielsen streaming ratings. Ahsoka is a massive fucking failure. And for all the people, I was in the minority of our side Star Wars fans who was shitting on Dave Filoni for the past several years. I told you he was a false prophet. I told you he was full of shit. I told you that he was a fucking woke feminist, and you didn't want to believe me. You wanted to believe the people that were pushing this thing about, oh, it's John and Dave versus KK. No, that was wrong. It was always wrong. And now here we are with Ahsoka, and some of those same people that were pushing that bullshit narrative are now saying, oh, Ahsoka's a disaster. What do you know? It's almost like it always was going to be. That's who Dave Filoni is. That's who Dave Filoni always has been. He works for Kathleen Kennedy, in case you forgot. Ahsoka is another Disney Star Wars disaster.